Good afternoon everyone. So Lynn and Wayne from Homestead Oz have issued a challenge to everyone in Shedwars to a cook-off. So it's one of our Gladiator challenges. I'll leave links below in the description to the other Gladiator challenges that we've done. So this Gladiator challenge is we've got to cook something from that we've grown. So, or a wild edible. I'm sticking with things that I've actually grown, and I'm going to be harvesting some stuff from my aquaponics. Personally, I'm on a very strict diet at the moment, and there's only certain things I'm allowed to eat. But I'm allowed to eat chives, so I'm going to have some of my chives, and I'm allowed to have celery. So I'm going to harvest some of my celery, which, as you can see, I'm so gentle when I harvest it. Just carefully picking it all. I should probably use my scissors, seems I've got them out here. But I'm going to do two things with my produce. So let's go over the other side. I'm very limited on what I'm allowed to eat at the moment, which is going to make this challenge a bit difficult for me. But I'm allowed to eat spinach. So I've got my homegrown spinach. I'm not allowed to eat chard, unfortunately, but I can definitely get some more celery. There are a few decent stalks coming up. And when I grow celery, I just cut it, do the cut and come again type method. I don't actually harvest the whole bunch, I just harvest a stalk at a time when I can find it. Oh, that's longevity spinach. That's longevity spinach. And I'm not allowed to have longevity spinach. So there's heaps of celery here. I'm just looking for the decent length ones. So over here, sorry, there's a lot of noise here today. A lot of noise. So the other thing I'm going to harvest, sorry, I'm having a bit of a challenge finding a spot to put the tripod so you can see what I'm doing, is I've got a few leeks here that I've grown previously. So I'm going to harvest them, and they're just going to grow again. So that's going to give a bit of an onion flavour along with the chives to my dish. And it'll happily grow back, which is fantastic. I love how leeks do that. So I've got a few bits and pieces here. I can't use the longevity spinach, and I'll probably need a little bit more celery, so I'm going to clean up this, take the bottom bits off that leek, and I'm probably only going to use the bottom section anyway, so I'll give the other leaves to the black soldier flies, I think. But I'll be back with what else is going to go into my dish. Another important ingredient in this dish that I'm going to be making is going to be milk from my dairy goats. So I collected that earlier today, so that's in the fridge inside, and I'll show you that shortly. The next ingredient in my dish is going to be some fresh parsley. Most of my gardens are not very happy at the moment because we've been in severe drought in this area. It's supposed to be our wet season, but we haven't had a lot of rain, so the ground's been very dry. The one thing that has grown quite well in this garden is parsley. So yeah, on to the next ingredient. And the final ingredient is not one of my Rhode Island red roosters or chickens. It's what's sitting in that nesting box. Can you see the egg? I'm not going to use that one particularly, but I've got some inside. Have you guessed what I'm going to be making? Put down in the comments below what you think it might be. Remembering that I am very restricted on my diet at the moment, and there's only very limited things I'm allowed to eat. So yes, this was a very interesting challenge. So yeah, put down in the description below, down there, what you think I'm going to be making. And if you've got an idea on things that I could be making with these ingredients, put that down below in the comments as well. That would be great. But I'm going to collect my eggs. Okay, so let's weigh some of the things that I brought in. I got 1 egg. Now I'm not going to use all of this celery in this dish. Not celery, sorry. This is parsley. So I'm not going to use all of that parsley. I'll just make sure that was zeroed out. Yes. So we've got 15 grams of parsley. Writing down these totals in my book. And then I've got... Now I cut my celery so that it was the stems and the stalk. And I will be using the whole lot. Just make sure that's zeroed. Yep. So it's 170 grams of celery. Then we have the spinach. So it's 10 grams. The bits of the leek I'm going to use are 45 grams. And then the chives, which aren't even registering. Oh dear. No, I don't even have 5 grams of chives. Oh dear. Anyway, I won't worry about the weighing the chives then. So that's that lot. So let's get to the cooking or preparing this. Let's get into preparing this. So I've cut up some of it, some of the chives already. I'm not very good with knife skills, but my little scissors work beautifully. Although I will admit, some of these bits are a bit chunkier than others. And I'm not going to chop up all of the parsley. Put that down there. I'm going to... So I'm using leeks because I haven't grown any onions. And that's the same reason I'm using the chives too. So I'm using them as a bit of an onion substitute. I'm thinking I'm going to need to cut them up a little bit finer than this. A lot of times we'll use leeks. Oop. I cut my fingers with a pair of scissors. How bad would that be? A lot of times we'll use leeks in potato and leek soup. Gavin makes a beautiful potato and leek soup. But I haven't grown any potatoes or sweet potatoes, so I couldn't make a dish with that. And I would normally put some chard, some rainbow chard, and some of the other spinaches that I've got growing in the aquaponics. I would normally put those into this dish as well, but it's not part of my diet at the moment. I'll leave a link to a playlist on the Larry Active diet up there somewhere, so you can see what it's all about. Now I like the onion flavour, so I'm going to do up my second leek. And these were grown from store-bought leeks, which I think is really cool that you can just regrow vegetables like that. And it gives you a bit of a kickstart on leeks too. Leeks take a very long time to grow. And I'm sure this would be a lot more efficient doing it with a knife. But I've got my scissors here. I'm going to leave some of this parsley as a garnish, but I am going to chop some of it up through it. Have you guessed what I'm making yet? You probably have. use the rest of it. Some of that parsley for a garnish and some of it for Mum to have later. I'll chop up my spinach. I would have used more spinach, but I haven't got any. This is all I've got growing at the moment. The rest of it's chard or the other varieties. So yeah, so that's all my greens cut up. Let's get the rest organised. Okay, so I'm going to start my stove pan heating up while I get the eggs ready. And I'm sure people have got a much better way of doing this than I do, but I always get paranoid about eggs getting into the yolks, so I always crack it into a separate container first and check for no eggs. No shells. And I've never managed to be able to do one-handed egg cracking. So, no shells. Oh, there was a shell. Oh, no. Oh. Hubby does it into a saucer, and he can always see all the shells really easily. I probably should do that too. No shells. And lovely yellow yolks. And the whites are even fairly yellow too. Love homegrown eggs. They're so yummy. And they've got so much good nutrition in them. And I know that my chickens have had a good life. So yeah, so that's the eggs. Okay, so that's the eggs done. Now next I'm going to put a little bit of coconut oil, which strictly speaking wasn't grown on my land. That's probably a little bit more than a little bit of oil. But so pop that in there, spin that around a little bit, and I'm going to put this in here while I'm organising the rest. And I'm sure others have got better ways of cooking this, but this is the way I'm doing it today. So I'm just going to let that, generally if it was onions I'd pop in some garlic as well, but again I didn't grow any garlic. So I'm going to pop the lid on that and let that do its thing for a little bit. I'm going to beat up these eggs, just break up those yolks. Generally I would actually pop in some salt and pepper as well, but I'm not going to do that because I didn't grow salt and pepper on my land. I could put in some celery and that would be nice and salty, but I'm not going to do that either. So I'm going to pour this bit of milk. So not a huge amount of milk, just a little bit. Let's mix that up. Can you guess what I'm making yet? Okay, so now they've got a bit of a chance to sweat down a bit of sauteing happening. I have heard that you should actually saute at a lower temperature, but I'm hungry. I haven't had very much to eat today. And getting this organised has taken a little bit longer than I had planned. So, I'll pour the egg in there. I'm sure you've all guessed what I'm making now. And if you haven't, you will in a second. That's right, you guessed it. Scrambled eggs. So I'm just going to let that cook for a little while with the lid on. And I'm going to clean up a little bit of this mess while I'm waiting for it to cook. So I'll be back with you shortly. So let's check on it. It's only been a couple of minutes. I'm about to turn the heat off the pan. So I thought I'd come in and just give it a bit of a if you're part of the Gladiator challenge for Team Southern Cross, leave a comment below on what you're cooking. And I'll have a website in the description that'll have links to all the other videos. Everyone in Shedwars has got until the 13th of March to put their videos up. So yeah. So now I'm going to put the lid on this and actually we'll leave that closed. Turn that temperature off. And now the residual heat that's in the frying pan will do the rest of the cooking. So I'll be back in a little while when it's finished cooking. Okay, so I just realised I haven't done the celery yet. So what I'm going to do with that, I'm going to chop it up. I don't really need to do this strictly. Strictly I can just stick it straight in there. But chopping it up is going to make it work a bit better. I'm going to chuck all that into the Thermomix. And I've got a glass of water. And the water is actually harvested on our property. And we filter it as well to make it so that it's nice and clean. I'm just going to blend that up. That should be pretty much done. Usually I'd put some other things in here as well, not just straight celery juice. But celery's the only thing that I grow. Oh, except for spinach. Normally I would put spinach in there, but I'm using spinach in with the eggs. So let's check on the eggs. Okay, let's check on the egg. Perfect. Absolutely perfect. Pan's a bit of a mess, but you get that. I'll clean that up in a minute. So now for the taste test. Okay, so let's start with some of the egg. And I don't know if you noticed, but I've got the same plates as Voon. I'll leave a link to her channel in the description. She does some really interesting cooking videos and is also in Shedwars, but she won't be in until the Northern Hemisphere starts, which will be at the end of this month. Yummy. Nice and fluffy. I might have to use Leeks in my scrambled eggs more often. Now for the celery juice. Now, I know a lot of people when they're doing the celery challenge, they actually will strain their celery juice. I'm not doing the celery challenge. For starters, it's totally the wrong time of day. And I'm really hoping I don't end up having rapid bowel movements after having this. But because normally when I have celery juice, I'll have other things in it, not just celery. So this is an interesting experience. I'm a bit nervous about trying this one. It's very chewy, which is probably why they strain it normally. But it just tastes like celery juice. I must say it's much nicer the way I normally do it, because normally I'll add some frozen mango and some frozen banana with the spinach and the celery. add a bit of maple syrup. I think that's all I normally put in. And it's really yummy. And I've also got 170 grams of celery in here. I usually only do about 120, but I picked more than usual. But bon appetit. I look forward to seeing your challenges and see what you've grown and cooked. Have a great one. Bless you. Remember to like and subscribe to the channel, and I will also leave links up for the other channels and their videos, and I'll have a link below for my website that has the Gladiator challenges on there, and specifically this one. So yeah, have a great one. Bless you.